So what's the biggest defect when it comes to auto repair? People come in and they tell me, hey, what's your hourly rate here at this shop? And that's probably the last question that's going to help them determine, am I at a good shop or a bad shop? And I'm Dave Riccio with Bumper to Bumper Podcast, along with John Riggle, my co-host. And together we're putting you in the know when it comes to your car. So what is the biggest question that people should be asking when they come to the auto repair shop, John?
Well, that's a good one. How are your technicians paid?
How are your technicians paid?
Man, that's going to be a tough one to get an answer for, but it's a good question.
It is a great question. And what we're talking about, and this is a defect in the auto repair business. And when I started in the auto repair business, the first time I wrote service, I noticed that I had 3 technicians that worked for me. And I noticed they would come and there was animosity between them. This guy didn't like that guy. This guy's mad at that guy. And they would come and complain about what I communicated to the customer, and they wanted more time, and they wanted more of this and more of that. And I mean, I'm young. I'm 20 years old, and I have no idea what to do with these grown-ass men that are upset with me, and I'm just trying to do the job. And what it was is they were on flat rate.
Yeah.
And you're saying, what is flat rate? Well, it is a huge component of the auto repair industry. And I would venture to say, I haven't done any research, but I would say 95% of auto repair is done on flat rate.
In this country, yes. Mm-hmm.
It's a fair.
I think so, yes. The number's pretty high.
Okay. So what flat rate is that we have a labor guide that we get that the auto manufacturers put out for their service departments as far as what a labor operation should take. So if you're changing out a window regulator on a door, it might say, hey, this should take an hour and a half to do the window regulator. In a flat rate shop, the shop pays a technician based on a flat rate hour. So if it's an hour and a half job based on this book, this labor guide, he is paid for an hour and a half. And whatever his pay scale is, that's what he gets. Now, if he can do that hour and a half job in, half an hour, well, he can get to the next job. So he goes to the next job and he's making up some time on that because that one calls for 5 hours. He's pretty proficient. He can get it done in 3.
Yep.
Then he's on to the next job. And on the next job, maybe it calls for 4 hours. He can get it done in 3.
Yep.
So he's ahead. So what happens is even though a technician worked a 40-hour week, in that 40-hour week, he's able to get 80 hours worth of work done. And so he's really good at flat rate.
Yep.
And so he knows how to, and that's how he becomes very successful in the auto repair business.
Yeah. That's how they sell the upside of flat rate pay plans. Okay. They will tell you that you're being compensated for your skills is, and your investment in yourself and your time and your tools and your knowledge and going to school, and that a guy who's really proficient will actually make more money on flat rate than he would if he was just hourly. And that's kind of the way they pitch it to the techs. And there's some truth in that. Yeah, if I spend money to buy a special tool that speeds up the job,
more power to you.
Yeah.
Now, as a business owner, and I can speak from my perspective, we're hourly rate shop here. So, but I could tell you what's attractive about flat rate is auto shops are sometimes feast or famine. We're busy as heck one day. I mean, here we are in June, right? Our phone is ringing off the hook. We're having trouble finding parking spaces. That's not a problem necessarily in December that we have.
Right.
So in December, we may be dead slow and people are twiddling their thumbs. Well, if someone's on flat rate, and there's no business, well, the business owner doesn't have to pay them.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes when a technician comes in and he's interviewing for a job, he's like, oh, this is what I'm pulling down. He shows me his best paycheck from the height of the season. It's very much a seasonal business.
Yeah.
He shows me his July paycheck. I'm like, no, dude, show me your year to date. What'd you make last year?
Yeah.
Because that's a different story. So as a business owner, it is attractive. I don't have to pay people to sit around.
Right.
So that's why they do it. But here's why I think it's a defect in our business. And I'll just, now that you know what flat rate is that it creates animosity. That is the first thing I experienced.
Yeah.
Is a technician go, why did he get that gravy train job and I get all the diagnostic jobs?
Yeah.
And that's what you've experienced your entire life, because you're a guy who can actually, not all techs can diagnose cars.
Right.
A lot of people can change nuts and bolts because they're just nuts and bolts. But to actually figure out what nuts and bolts you need to change takes a whole different level of technician.
Yeah.
So technician that is good at diagnostic, he actually suffers on a flat rate program because they want him to diagnose it for an hour, and sometimes to go down those 20 steps in the troubleshoot the problem takes you 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you're the opposite.
Yeah.
And this is diagnostic is not something customers like to pay for.
Right.
For sure. So it creates animosity in the shop. And the other thing it does, and there's several things it does for me, cutting corners. And we'll hire a new tech, John, and we're hourly rate, and he's a good tech, and he shows up, and you quality control every job going out the door. And one of the comments you'll make to me is, it's going to take a minute to get the flat rate out of this guy because everybody in the industry is trained in this flat rate system, so they have got accustomed to cutting corners. And I'm not saying flat rate is totally bad. I'm just saying flat rate is wrong with the wrong person.
Flat rate is good if it is managed properly. If it's mismanaged and used as a bludgeon to improve productivity, then the whole thing falls apart. So again, there's nothing inherently wrong with flat rate. It's just the way it gets managed and abused sometimes, I think, that actually causes the issues. But it's there. It's there, and you can't ignore it.
You can't ignore it, but so people are walking into a shop, and they're like, hey, what's your guys' hourly rate? And they're going to judge a shop based off what their hourly rate is, when in fact, some of the other issues that come up with flat rate, one is quality.
Yeah.
And what I mean by quality is, somebody may cut a corner so they get to that next job and make more money. But another thing that comes up in quality is if you're on a flat rate system, when the job is paid for and billed, that's when it ends up on your paycheck. So if you're on a Friday afternoon and you're putting a job back together and there's a part that's questionable, it's on the cusp. It could go back on the car or it could be replaced. Well, chances are, if you're on flat rate, that part is going back on the car.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, if you're on an hourly rate system, you're going to go get your boss because your paycheck's the same either way, really.
Right.
You're going to go get your boss and go, I didn't see this in the write-up until I disassembled it. This part really should be replaced. And your boss can say, okay.
Yeah.
Let me call the customer and see what they want to do because they agree. It's subjective. It's on the cusp. And you call the customer up and say, you know what, this part, we could put it back on. We're not totally comfortable with it. What is your thoughts? And they may say, hey, you know what, I need the car today. I'm going to chance it. Or they may say, you know what, I got an extra car and you know what, I want it done right. Let's just go ahead and wait till Tuesday when the part comes in.
Right.
So quality really becomes an issue. Flat rate is not designed for quality.
Yeah. And here's the other problem that you run into, back to the animosity thing, and you see this with the guys that work at dealerships a lot. When the dealerships are doing factory warranty work, okay, so customer pay work may pay a certain number of hours to do the job, where factory warranty work, the factory warranty work is compensated between a contract between the manufacturer and that dealership. So the dealership is only going to pay the guys on the warranty side what they can collect from the manufacturer for that, which in many cases is significantly less.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it 50% less.
It can be a lot less than what the technician would earn if he was doing the job as a customer pay job. So you want to talk about animosity, and that's where it comes from. You got one guy in the shop that's been getting fed warranty work all day. That guy is not happy.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, he's not taking the extra tying a little bow on your repair.
Yeah, especially if he's the diag guy and they got him on flat rate and he's doing flat rate diag under warranty and he's getting maybe 3/10 for every diag he does. You talk about a guy that's got an incentive to either be insanely good or really, is going to look for every opportunity to make his paycheck that he can. And, like I say, it's the mismanagement of it, and it's it comes with the territory. When you go to work at a dealer, you're going to be doing factory warranty work.
Well, And so, yeah, so we've got the quality issue, we've got the animosity, and I want somebody happy working on my car. I want them to be excited
Oh,
about
heck
it. I want them to be proud of their work. But if they're grumpy because they feel like they're getting shafted on this deal, it's not going to come out as nice as
Yeah.
someone who's got a smile on their face who's working on your car. So
Yeah.
I don't want a bitter technician. So the other thing that comes up is overselling. So if I'm a technician and someone comes in for an oil change, and the oil change that we've talked about, they've been devalued so poorly, so much.
Yeah.
So the shop barely wants to pay that flat rate technician to do an oil change. So they maybe give him
Yeah.
2/10, 3/10 of an hour, whatever it is. If that's all he's making on that oil change, and he's also supposed to do an inspection where they're not paying him to inspect the brakes,
Yeah.
couple things are going to happen. He's going to find something wrong with your car to compensate for the lack of pay on this oil change.
He's going to find something.
He's going to find
Yep.
something wrong with it for
Yep.
sure. So, and then, back to our question, what's your hourly rate? Your hourly rate actually has nothing to do with anything if you're getting a bunch of stuff you don't need.
Yeah.
That's why I say you're going to spend more money on a bunch of stuff you don't need. So that how are you paying your technicians is a bigger deal than if you buy something you don't need. I don't care how much you saved, $5 or $10 or $20 on hourly rate. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It becomes insignificant at that point. So overselling really becomes an issue. And you brought up the point of cabin air filter, right? So
Okay, yeah.
comes in for an oil change, you're supposed to check the cabin filter as part of the inspection process. And this is where pencil whipping comes in.
Yep.
And pencil whipping is one of my pet peeves. And if a technician's not getting compensated enough to do this oil change, and he's supposed to check the brakes, and they're not going to compensate him to check the brakes, you know what he's going to do? He's going to shine your flashlight through the opening in the wheel, and he's going to go, yeah, it needs brakes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's not measuring the rotors. He's not test driving it like he should. And even the test drive is a big deal because as a technician, you're a professional tech and you're on a flat rate system. You have to go test drive that car to make sure it's good.
I've seen guys doing oil changes and not road testing cars, right?
Big mistake.
That is a huge, huge mistake, and people make it all the time. Because now you haven't driven that car. You don't know if that engine oil warning light comes on intermittently or not. And now you are just the last guy to work on the car. So when the customer gets it back, you were the last guy to touch that car. Now you've got an engine oil warning light coming on. Big, big mistake. Every car needs to be road tested if you're able to do it. But that's one of those things that nobody wants to pay a technician to go do a road test.
Yeah, but back to 3/10 of an hour.
Back to 3/10. Yeah.
If you drive 3 miles, which is our standard road test, 3 miles to easily take it in traffic, you may be stuck at a stoplight for 3 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a little construction going on or whatever.
I figure it's going to take me 10 minutes.
10 minutes
in the
3 mile,
afternoon. Yeah, to do a 3 mile.
So
road test.
3/10 of an hour, and this oil change, by the time you do it right, it's going to take you an hour. I mean, if you do all the things plus the inspections like you should. But back to that cabin filter, you got to pull the glove box off. You got to remove a panel. Then the cabin filter's in there.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're getting a cabin filter.
You're getting a cabin filter because if I look at it and it looks good and I put it back in, I'm not getting paid time to change that filter, right? So it's kind of a.
So you actually talk about the management of the flat rate system, and I like that. If flat rate with the right people could be the right pay program, but I would say a majority of them are mismanaged.
Yeah, and it comes back to there's always hybrids to it. So you could have a guy that's got a base hourly rate and have a commission pay on top of it or something. That's his incentive to be productive, because that's what we want guys to do is be productive. So if you've got a guy that's on a salary, maybe he doesn't have any more incentive, other than his personal drive to be successful.
Right.
So at some point, maybe that is something that you have to consider when you're paying technicians. There's this balance. The guy's got to make enough to pay his bills and earn a little bit of profit for himself so he can buy tools and he probably wants a boat or a trailer or something.
Right.
The guy's got to be able to live his life and make a good wage. So maybe it's a combination. Maybe you pay him a base rate or something. That way he can cover his bills, and then there's a production bonus on top of it. I would really love to see a way to compensate guys for quality. That would be my big thing. If there was a way to really compensate guys for quality, and some of the manufacturers tried to do that with CSI, customer satisfaction index and stuff. If you ran good CSI numbers,
Right.
you'd actually make a higher rate. So there's ways to do it,
We
but it's
somewhat-
got to be managed.
We do it in our, because you quality control everything.
Yeah.
And I tell customers, John is paid to find mistakes.
Mhm.
That is essentially what you're doing. You're paid to find mistakes.
Yeah.
And when the technicians make a mistake, sometimes you don't necessarily tell me about it, which I appreciate it. 'Cause
Yeah,
you just kind of say, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
miss this.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll take care of it for them in the final bay.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you're like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Get it back over.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking for patterns. Everybody makes mistakes. I'm good with a mistake here, mistake there. But if I see it become a pattern, then we have to have a conversation about it.
For sure. Okay, so that is some insight into how technicians are paid, at least 95% of the industry. The flip side is hourly rate, and we can get into that a whole nother day and talk about that. But hourly rate, in my mind, is going to have the highest quality. There's no monetary benefit for a technician to cut corners.
Yeah.
Not a monetary benefit. If he wants to be proud of himself and look how quick I got that done, that's different than monetary.
Yeah.
But it's whether there's food on his table or not doesn't have to do with him cutting corners.
Yeah.
So I do like hourly rate. As a business owner, you're like, well, shoot, if a guy drags his feet, he technically gets paid more.
Yeah. But
So-
if he keeps dragging his feet, he doesn't work here.
He doesn't
either.
work here
I
anymore,
mean,
right?
that's kind of the flip side of that one.
And that's
It's got to make sense for the business.
pride of workmanship. So, one of the things that we talked about even in show planning today was, how do you pick a good auto shop? And you're like, oh my God, it's going to be so difficult for consumers to pick it. We don't have a one fits all. We can give you some ideas about what's going on so you understand, so you can feel comfortable or not feel comfortable and go, I think I heard the Bumper to Bumper podcast talking about this the other day. I should probably run the other direction on this shop, or whatever it may be, but hard to know. But that is a good question. And I think our industry is moving toward hourly rate. I'm seeing more and more shops do it.
More. Yeah.
And I think it should happen more. But ultimately, I think at the end, it's going to be a hybrid. There's going to be some sort of production, and I like that too. If a guy's productive, I'll pay a little extra on top of that. But there's no incentive to do it wrong.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one of the questions that you might ask an auto shop. Whether answered or not remains to be seen. Thanks for joining us on the Bumper to Bumper podcast with Dave Riccio and John Riggle. We'll see you next time. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.